Price of crude oil shot to its highest level since 2023 this week, surging more than 28% to more than $90 a barrel.
So oil just hit over $90 a barrel, and the big banks are warning that $120 a barrel is no longer a what if, it's the target. For most people, this is financial disaster. It's inflation, it's expensive groceries, and it's definitely a nightmare at the pump. But for us, this could actually be the ultimate income event if you know which covered call ETF to invest in and take advantage of the situation that's happening in the Middle East. I've identified 3 specific covered call ETFs that are positioned to potentially explode in a $120 a barrel oil scenario. One of them actually declared a dividend that is 203% higher than 2 months ago. Let's go into the details. As of right now, March the 8th, 2026, the global energy market is on razor's edge. Analysts from JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs have officially raised their targets. Bottom line, if the flow of oil through the Strait of Hormuz is disrupted for even a few weeks, we aren't just looking at $100 a barrel oil, we're looking at possibly a vertical spike to 120 or even 125. In this environment, you don't just want to own oil, you actually want to own the volatility. And in the covered call world, volatility is our best friend because it makes the options we sell more expensive, and that means higher premiums and bigger monthly distributions. But not all energy funds are created equal. Some will cap your gains too early. Others might not give you the oil exposure you think you're getting. And I looked at 3 specific covered call ETFs that I feel can give you that exposure and take advantage as a leverage of the volatility we're about to go through. And these are MLPD, NDIV, and US oil. It's actually known as USOI, but most of us just call it US oil. Let's take a closer look. First up is MLPD, the Global X MLP and Energy Infrastructure Covered Call ETF. You want to think of MLPs as the toll booths of the energy world. These companies own the pipelines. They don't care as much about the price of oil as they do about the volume flowing through the pipes. MLPD owns these pipelines and writes at-the-money calls on 100% of the position. Right now, it's yielding over 13%. So in our $120 per barrel oil simulation, MLPD would be your safe haven. Even if the market gets chaotic, those pipeline contracts are usually fixed. Now here's the downside. Because it covers 100% of the upside, the share price won't moon even if the oil does. It's a pure income play. So you buy this to get that 13% plus check, and the bottom line is it's steady, it's boring, but it's reliable. Now, if you want growth in income, you need to take a look at NDIV, the Amplify Energy Natural Resource Dividend Income ETF. Unlike the pipelines and MLPD, NDIV holds the actual producers, the companies pulling the oil out of the ground. We're talking about companies like Petrobras, the Brazilian giant, and Northern Oil. These companies' profits explode when oil moves from $80 a barrel to $120 a barrel. But here's why NDIV is a must-have for the simulation. It only writes calls on about 80% of its portfolio. That remaining 20% is unhedged. So in a $120 oil spike, that 20% growth kicker allows NDIV to capture the rally while the other funds are capped. And as of March 2026, NDIV is already up over 22%, as you can see from here. And finally, since this is a covered call ETF channel, the yield is close to 10%. That was the distribution rate annualized for this fund. So finally, we have the king of the oil shock, US oil. So this isn't an ETF, it's an exchange traded note that sells covered calls directly on oil futures. And this is actually the most aggressive play in the energy sector. Why? Because US oil doesn't just benefit from high oil prices, it actually thrives on fear. So when the news cycle is dominated by supply disruption and war, like we're going through right now, the implied volatility of oil futures goes through the roof. So look at the March 2026 payout. And as you can see here, the March distribution was $1.29. Now look where it was in January. It was 42 cents. So between January and March, it went up close to 203%. That's pretty significant. So the bottom line, if oil hits $120 a barrel, $125 a barrel, US oil is where you're going to see the possible life-changing distributions. However, please remember it's an ETN, so you're taking on the credit risk of UBS. In a total global collapse, that matters, but for a $120 a barrel surge, US oil may be the undisputed yield champion. So what's the game plan for the $120 price per barrel for oil? Well, this is just my opinion, but MLPD for that rock solid 13% give or take pipeline check that doesn't care about market swings. INDIV if you want to capture the massive stock growth of the oil giants, and US oil to weaponize, if you will, the market panic into a pretty high yield. So the oil crisis is coming for everybody's wallet. But you always want to make sure that you leverage yourself and get paid. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great and prosperous rest of your week. And don't forget, if you like this type of content on Covered Call ETFs, definitely subscribe as I put a new video every single week. Thank you so much. Have a great day. I'll see you on the next episode.